T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Trap Talk Reptile Network, coolest reptile network in the world, episode 494, Summer of Kinova, round 2. Going down tonight. I'm your boy MJ. What is good, everyone? Happy Thursday. We all know Thursdays feel like a Friday because it's that time. Listen, if this is your first time hanging out, you're into keeping reptiles, ball pythons, want to learn more about the ball python game, which you will a lot tonight on tonight's show. But anyways, if those things interest you, do me a favor. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. And by doing those things, you'll be reminded of all the podcasts that come out on this network. All right. Shout out to all the other hosts. But 6 days a week. All right. 6 days a week. So you can find a podcast here from the Trap Talk Reptile Network. You can also listen to the Trap Talk Reptile Network on all the major audio platforms. All right. There's Buzzsprout. There's Spotify. There's Apple. A lot of you guys just like to listen. So shout out to all you guys. Wherever you listen to Reptile Network, Trap Talk Reptile Network, don't forget to rate, review, and also drop a comment. Give me some feedback. All right. Love all the feedback. Love all the early birds, man. Shout out to everyone in the early bird chats. I'm gonna get to you guys right now. If you're looking for exclusive content, if you want to get a lot more out of what you see out of each episode, you want to get more behind the scenes, or if you just want to tap in and connect with some of the best reptile keepers in the game, then click the very first link in the description below and join the Trap Talk Patreon family. As soon as you join the Patreon family, you get a link to the Discord, which will connect you with over 200 amazing keepers. And there's an awesome Instagram group chat that's 24/7 cracking. I mean, we got global trappers. We have people tap in all hours of the day. It doesn't stop, man. So shout out to my trappers. Shout out to all my Patreon members. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. All the love and support means a lot. Early birds, who's here? You know, it's summer. Right? It's gonna be an epic show. All right. You got so many of you guys love Summer, as do I. She's awesome for the ball python community, and she's done so much great stuff with Kinova already. So yeah, it's gonna be a good show. Colorfully Vulgar in the building. Trap Talk Patreon member, what is up? Krista, who's actually one of the Kinova's platinum Patreon members who just came back from their platinum party, I guess you could call it. She had a great time. Great feedback. We're going to talk a lot about how that went as well from Summer, because she ran a lot of the things happening for that platinum Patreon gathering that Justin just had. So shout out to Krista, who just came back from that. She's awesome. She's a Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. City Limit Exotics, my man Jordan. I keep calling you Jordan. Kenneth Jordan, my dog Kenneth Jordan from City Limit Exotics, Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Check out his new breed on the block episode. It was epic. Willie B Exotics in the building. What is up? Thanks for tapping in, player. My homie from Sweden, Lucid Boreals. What's up, Marcus? Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. MKB Reptiles, my boy Matt, just got his first chondro. Bro, you got to share that stuff in the chats, man. I watched your story. I'm so happy for you. That's amazing. Go give him a follow so you can see what yellow neonate he just put on his stories. He's also a Trap Talk Patreon member for sure. My dog. Celtic Reptiles in the building. What is up, Celtic? Thanks for tapping in. Mercury Exotics in the building. What is up, Mercury Exotics? Tell me. Tony in the building. What's up, Tony? Revision Reptiles. The homie Manuel Noriega in the building. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Travis Gordon in the building. TNS Reptiles. What is up? Thanks for tapping in. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Man Freddy. What is up? Thanks for tapping in. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Meteoric Serpents. JD. My homie right here. You can catch JD Fridays. He covers colubrids bi-weekly under this network with the homie Alvaro. He also has his own podcast, Colubrid Corruption. All right. So if you're in the colubrid game, you want to know what's happening, you got to follow this guy. He's going to get you involved heavily. All right. That's what he's here for. He's here to corrupt you with colubrids. And he's here to just give you mad heat out of the network. Appreciate you, dog. Ugly Farm in the building. What is up, Ugly Farm? Royal Serpents, Jamil in the building. What is up? Magic City Pythons in the building. What's up, JC? Nikki in the building. What is up, Nikki? Julio Fulio. What is up, player? Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Eric's Morph Factory in the building. What is up, player? Procon. What's good? Thanks for, I think I said that right. H&H Pythons in the building. What is up, H&H? Mark Hager. What's up? My man, Mark Hager in the building. And let's see. Redline Pythons. What is up, Redline Pythons? I appreciate you. And I don't know, could it be Summer? No, it's actually not. This is Justin. Justin's here. Perfect. We're going to end it in style with Justin with the early birds. Appreciate all the early birds. Kinova in the building. You guys are awesome. Listen, if you think tonight's episode's worth of any super chat, don't be shy. Drop a super chat, especially if you have a topic or an important question and you want to make sure I don't miss it. I don't miss super chats. All right. So just a little tip right there. Drop a super chat and I'll share it. I do want to say, before we move forward, shout out to US ARC. All right. If you're keeping reptiles, you should be supporting US ARC. If you don't know what US ARC is, second link in the description below. If you click on it, you can read all about US ARC, what their organization stands for, why we should support them. And these numbers really matter. So please consider becoming a US ARC member today, as low as $5 a month. Help us. Let's go. And shout out to you if you support US ARC. All right. It means a lot. And thanks for being on the same team. Shout out to another sponsor of tonight's episode, my man Gary Shavino over at GS Reptiles. What a guy. Okay, first and foremost, I'm excited because his vlog drops tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I believe. I hope I got that right. Either way, if you go to GS Reptiles and you subscribe and hit that notification bell, then you'll be reminded. All right? So, and I can't wait because it is going to be about the baby Bolins that he has available. All right? He will be showing off some baby basins, but guess what? All the basins are sold. Ooh, what are you going to do? But listen, Gary Shavino, thank you so much for your support. Cannot wait for that vlog. It's going to be epic. I love all Gary's vlogs. And if you go follow Gary, you'll like his vlogs too. All right? I'm telling you right now, Gary Shavino. Also, tonight's episode is brought to you by Clutch. That's right. We're going to be talking a lot about Clutch, but I'm telling you right now, #1 organization app in the ball python game. You want to look fresh. You want to look different from others. You got to get Clutch. All right? So much to discuss as far as what's happening with Clutch. As you guys know, Summer is a huge part of the Clutch team. She's product owner, which we'll talk more about that label, or not label, but that position that she has. But for now, guys, go to Clutch, follow them on Instagram, stay on top of all alerts, and check out, become a member. It's awesome. Clutch. Shout out to you if you use Clutch. I'm telling you right now, it looks fresh. The color coding, everything I'm a big fan of. I'm telling you. So shout out to Clutch. Also, tonight's episode is brought to you by CONDUIT Constrictors. All right, up and coming family in the ball python game, working with some amazing recessives, definitely quality when it comes to their morphs and their projects. So go give them a follow on Instagram. You can also catch them at Tinley. They've already vended big shows, and they're bringing heat. All right. Shout out to the CONDUIT family from CONDUIT Constrictors. You can find all the link to all my sponsors in the description below. All right. And thank you, everyone. All right. I am so excited about tonight's episode, mainly because, you know, it's been a while, first and foremost, since I've had Summer on the show. But Summer is heavily involved with so much going on over with Kinova and Clutch. I watch a lot of her lives that she does, I believe, every Friday. You guys know Hetflix, man. I can't get enough of Hetflix, but, you know, huge player that we're going to be speaking to, man. We got so much to give to Summer as far as like grinding out so many things that she does. And I got a lot of questions, and I know you guys are excited. So why don't we get this show on the road and bring you this Summer round 2? All right. So do what you got to do to get your mind right. Do what you got to do to stay hydrated, because it's episode 494. Oh, my gosh. All right. Summer of Kinova and Clutch coming at you right now. Let's go. Choo.
Good.
You ready for do more in the future? Trap Talk podcasts?
Yes.
Man.
Only Trap Talk. Exclusive.
Yes.
Exclusive. Oh.
So stop calling us.
Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crop, God love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it. Do it. Do it.
And we're live with Summer, Costco's new employee of the month. I'm just
What's up? I do love Costco, so
I didn't know you could get Costco apparel. I had no clue you could get a hoodie. Where did you get
my
that?
husband got us matching Costco hoodies for Christmas. So I these are very exclusive. I think you could only get them online. I gotta say they are extremely high quality. It's probably like the nicest hoodie I've ever owned. So yeah, I'm happy to rep the Co all day.
That's epic. Shout out to you, Summer, and shout out to your husband. How you been? I mean, I know we talk here and there. You know, you see me pop in on your guys' lives, which I love.
Yeah.
But what's going on? How you been?
I've been good. Just been busy as always. There's a lot going on. You know, snakes always hatching, snakes always selling, snakes always shipping.
Right.
Clutch also taking up a lot of my time in terms of working with the development team on rolling out new features and fixing bugs and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's just kind of never ending, but it's a lot of fun.
And what's really awesome from what I've seen is like you don't look like you're being pulled more like direct, like more than the other from what I can tell, because you're still involved with the lives, you're still popping up in vlogs, and you're also like putting in a lot with the app, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how are you dealing with everything? Like, as far as like, obviously there's a lot to go into as far as brain power when working with an app like Clutch, right? But then I do know that you like working with the animals as well. So
yeah,
is your day pretty 50-50 like it seems, or are you doing more work one than the other right now? Like, how's your workflow?
It's pretty 50-50, but it's more like 5-5-5-5-5. Like I'm always kind of going back and forth. I work like out of the Kinova facility most of the time. So, I'm always there. So, I'll go in the mornings and I'll usually look through, and that's kind of what you guys see on the lives on Fridays that I'll do sometimes. I'll just go in and see what's hatched, what we have in the incubator ready to hatch, anything that's shed out, all that stuff, kind of get my bearings, because I do most of the sales. Unless you're on the in with Justin and you're somebody that texts him directly, for the most part, if you're inquiring through Morph Market or via email or something like that, I'm going to be the one you're talking to for all the sales stuff. So that takes up a lot of my time. And then I'm in meetings usually an hour or so a day for Clutch, give or take.
Okay. Does your day-to-day kind of switch up depending on the day then? Like, meaning like,
yeah,
when you roll into work, do you always roll in the same time of the day, or is it depending on the day? Like, how's your schedule?
No, I mean, I pretty much always roll in at the same time. But what I have to do, I sort of have a flow. It's kind of like the first part of my day is pretty structured, because I usually get in and I kind of am immediately like, okay, emails, because we always have tons of emails that come in like from the time that I go to bed to when I wake up and get to work. So it's kind of like a get to work, get situated, start going through emails. And honestly, it usually takes an hour or two at least to get through all the emails, because once you start answering them, then people start replying back. And so it's like you start it's a good cycle, but like you start a cycle of then like you're starting to communicate. So even if I answered all the emails, by the time I'm done answering them, I now have replies that I have to go through. You know what I mean? So it's like it takes a couple hours to kind of get through the emails and kind of stop the flow of like back and forth. So that I can start to work on something else. But yeah, so I'll pretty much do that. I have some meetings that I have to hop on for Clutch that happen early in the morning usually, because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but the majority of the Clutch team actually works out of South Africa. So they're on a totally different time zone. So all of my mornings, all of my meetings with them are very like morning heavy, because for them, that's like late afternoon. So yeah, I get on and we do like a daily check-in with all of the development team to make sure that they are, it's not really making sure, it's just kind of they share what they've done throughout the day, throughout the week, how their progress is going, any kind of issues that come up get discussed. And then we also have meetings depending on the day of the week and depending on kind of where we are in the development cycle regarding like backlog, which is basically the list of things we need to do or want to do. We have a meeting to plan the next sprint of work that we're going to do. Then when we're done with sprints of work, we have meetings to discuss how those sprints went. Then we'll have meetings just to check in throughout the week with our design team, because they're always working ahead of the development team on stuff that is going to be developed later. Like we have to have designs first. So it is a lot of moving parts. And kind of But yeah, it definitely changes throughout the day. So I'm really not able to like go in and do the same exact thing every day. It's very dependent on what's happening with clutch. Also like what's happening in the snake room. If we have international shipments that need to go out, I'm heavily involved in all of that. So depending on the day, that might be taking up a lot of time, making sure those shipments get out and that all the animals are right and we have all the right paperwork and all that stuff. So.
Damn. It sounds stressful, but it sounds like fun though, because like you're literally on the front end of all this exciting stuff. You know, I mean, obviously you guys have tons of goals in mind with clutch, which we're going to dive into right now, but you know, handling sales, man, like I don't do nowhere near as far as like the volume of sales a lot of like the top tier ball python breeders are doing, but I do know it is enough to keep me out of bed. Like if I have someone inquiring about a snake and it's, you know, especially a returning customer, and I know like they're for reals. Oh man, I something inside me just wants to stay up. I can't really like,
right.
Like, I can only imagine that being every day, but you have an email full of them. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
that is like, it's kind of like, it's something I want, but also like, holy crap, like you got to delegate that, you know, because you could burn out, you know, and then also
yeah,
like,
it's hard. I tend to go to bed. I try to go to bed pretty early, and I like have a brain where like if I'm on, I used to be, well, I say used to be, I still kind of am, but I used to be a really big like internet kid. So I could stay on the computer until like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, like very easily just get like roped in. And especially now with like social media, like scrolling type stuff, my brain will very easily get wired to that. So I have to kind of cut myself off. Like I'm doing this because you're cool, but like I generally am not on the computer or really even my phone after like 8, because if I am, I like will not, I'll be up until who knows when. So usually Justin will sometimes take the night shift. And if people do inquire late at night, I'll see that he's answered them like, you know, at 11 or 12, because he tends to be more of a night owl. But yeah, I kind of I had to set that boundary for myself, because I was finding that when I was checking emails and stuff, like right before bed, I would, like you said, I'd then be up like way later than I need to be. And then I'm not getting any sleep. And that's not really great for anybody's ability to do their job.
I'm not going to sit here and try to life coach people, but I will say lately what I've been trying to do, I don't always do it, but if it's like an end of a podcast, or if I know, okay, there's no reason for me to be on my phone, I'll literally leave my phone right here on my desk. I'll go have dinner, talk to my wife, and like hang out, and then just go to bed. You know, she has like this all cool alarm clock that goes off when the sun comes up or whatever. So like,
oh yeah, those are nice.
Yeah, so it's like I don't really need my phone. I'm somebody who likes to listen to stuff as I'm going to sleep. But I realize how much that kind of doesn't help me rest all the time. Like and so I do know there should be a cutoff time with your phone for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just healthy. Like it's just like kind of, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, not to get like weird and like, again, like I don't actually know what I'm talking about, but I've listened to a lot of podcasts. But I mean, I think it's like something with like your circadian rhythm. Like if you're looking at like bright, I mean, that's why they have like the yellow. Like if you're looking at all this bright light and stuff, it like messes with your brain basically. So yeah, I think it's definitely good to like unplug if you can. But again, not everybody's able, depending on your lifestyle.
Going back to you handling sales for Justin, like I know there's a lot of people who just kind of live under a rock and they do their thing, but they come out and they want to spend money. How many people are like, well, I don't want to talk to you, Summer, I want to talk to Justin? And if that happens, what do you do about it?
Honestly, very few people. Most of the people that I think would be like that probably already have Justin's number.
Right.
I mean, Justin was joking about it the other day, but we had people say the opposite. Like he started answering and they were like, I want to talk to Summer again. So I'm like, don't say that. You're going to get me fired. But no, I mean, for the most part, the only time I ever really get that is if I tell people something they don't want to hear. If they try to make an offer or something like that, that I'm like, hey, we can't do that. Then they'll be like, well, let me talk to Justin. But what they don't know is that, I mean, I generally am like, you know, half the time Justin's in the room with me and we're talking about stuff as I'm answering emails. So there's very rarely any time where that actually gets you very far, just FYI people, because usually we're pretty in sync on it.
Now, I try to say, and I stand by this, that, you know, a lot of people who are really successful in the ball python game don't partake in any kind of like complaining, especially in like comment threads. Like they're too busy, right? But I have seen some of them kind of lose their patience on tire kickers, quote unquote, or you know, people kind of like taking up a lot of their time, and then they ghost and nothing happens.
Yeah.
How good are you dealing with those? And like, when do you know, Summer, like, okay, like I need to, because I know how you are, and I know you like to give thorough answers and you don't like to give shortcut stuff. Like, you like to really give it all. But when do you even know, like, all right, I got too much other stuff to do than talking to someone?
I mean, we've had so many different people and a lot of amazing customers. Don't get me wrong, a lot of amazing people to inquire, and we have no issues and everything goes perfectly smoothly. But you know, when you do deal with a lot of sales and a lot of people, you get kind of undesirable inquiries as well. And honestly, with the tire kickers, those don't bother me as much because I answer so many things anyway, that generally the people that inquire, I give them, to be honest, we kind of have like, in a way, like canned responses that we start out with, because it's like somebody says, hey, I want this animal. So we kind of have a script of like what we say when somebody wants the animal that fills them in on everything they need to know. Right. So that doesn't take me any time at all I've said it so many times, it's like by memory. Right. So that doesn't take me any time at all. Now, you know, when you have people that kind of go back and forth a lot about different things, if they're asking genuine questions, I don't mind. There's definitely a point where you can kind of tell that people are just stringing you along. And at that point, you know, I'll answer if it's a quick answer, but it's not, again, I'm not going to give my full like energy and detail that I might normally give if it's kind of clear that it's heading in a direction where they're just delaying the inevitable being them ghosting.
Like, I'm sure, like, Summer, I'm sure you get something where, like, you know, you're talking to this person for a while, and then for whatever reason, they're like, I want a picture of the parents, right? So is that something where you're like, okay, no problem, let me get you that? Or do you tell them?
Always get pictures. If they ask for pictures, the only time we won't get pictures is if we don't have them. Like, we don't have the parents anymore, and we don't have any pictures of the parents, then sorry, there's nothing I can do. I'm not going to like track down whoever we sold it to or something like that. Or if we have like just listed a new baby and it's literally like the picture's like a week old, you know, we might not get a picture, like get an updated picture, because we'll just tell them, hey, this picture was just taken. But if the picture is more than a couple weeks old, we'll definitely grab a new one if they want to see it in lighting, or if they want a little video clip or something like that. You know, at the end of the day, to be honest, it can be kind of annoying, because any little interruption to your flow does break your flow and kind of take you out of what you're doing and hinder your productivity. But you have to understand also that for the other person, this is, you know, I'm interacting with 50 people, but they're interacting with one person, right? Yeah. And so they want that one interaction that they have to be good, right? And so if they ask for a picture of a snake, yeah, it might take me, you know, an extra 5 minutes or maybe even less to find it in the room and grab a picture, but it's going to hopefully make them know that we are, you know, willing to give them that time and attention. So we'll generally do it.
And that's why, like, yeah, I know trust me, I've had my fair share with tire kickers, as you say, but you know, there's been times where I'm like, damn it, like this person wants a picture of the dad, and I'm in bed, and I'm like, just go get a picture, even though you know, just go get a picture. And I gotta tell you, it's not all the time, but they buy right after you request. You give them their request sometimes, you know. And you know, and also you just have to take it like it's a part of the job, like it's what we signed up for. And I think also, if someone is really complaining about tire kickers, they need to kind of spend some more time selling snakes and just understand that tire kickers will always come with what we do. You know, like we can't ever become so good where we don't have to deal with someone who's going to want to ask a million questions and maybe not buy it. Like it's a part of the sales. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I have had situations where I've had a customer who they bought snakes from us. So they weren't a tire kicker in that sense, but they had snakes on a payment plan for a really long time. And over the course of their payment plan, we exchanged, I used to know the exact number, but it was close to like 1,000 messages, like just constant back and forth of questions while the snakes were being held. And after they got the snakes, they then later accused me of not wanting to spend time talking to them. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. I was like, I don't know anybody who would send who would do 1,000 back and forths with somebody before they even had an animal, and then be told that they didn't give time or customer care. So you just kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. You're always going to have people that are not happy no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try. So for me, I just try to treat everyone as fairly as I can, and be as consistent as I can.
Right.
And sometimes that means setting up some boundaries. Like, again, like if somebody's asking for an update picture every week until they get the snake shipped, or if they're asking for, they buy the snake on a Sunday and you're going to ship it on a Monday and they want like a picture in between. It's kind of like, why? But
yeah. And you know what's crazy? I love you, Justin, but the first time I ever saw Justin kind of flustered was when I was visiting and he was dealing with some customer who was giving, I forget the details, but it was a customer, something with shipping. And I guess he didn't want to go to the hub. I guess he wanted it sent to his house or something like that. And it was quite of an expensive of a package. And Justin was like, like, I guess trying to convince him that's not safe or, wise to do. Cause I know it was definitely during a cold season. I remember it was cold too. And so I was like, dude, like even he goes through it, like everyone.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. There's going to be a customer is going to be a thorn in your foot. And you just got to like, you got to know how to delegate it, especially when you're a professional. You know what I mean? And I love how you're honest about being fair, even to platinum Patreon members like my man Josh here, who asked you for a deal and you said no.
I don't remember the specifics, Josh, but the snake was worth it. Is all I know.
It is priced fairly. That's what we know here at Kinova. Everything is priced fairly. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate him, Josh. Josh is a good guy.
Josh is awesome.
Yeah, he is really awesome. I've had good conversations with him over the phone and still do. But, it makes me think about your guys' gathering that you just had for your platinum Patreon members. Krista from Neurophi Exotics, also really awesome. I was like, hey, Krista, if you get a chance, can you show me my super dwarf that I sent them? And
yes, I remember.
She told me that you did a great job showing her around everywhere. And she gave me and all the trappers so much great feedback. But tell me how that day went. Let's kind of maybe give people an insight on what a day like that's all about for Kinova and for you guys, and what you were doing during that event and the feedback, everything. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So for us, it was kind of an offshoot of the VIP events that we've done for the past few years. So on our Patreon, we have a VIP tier, and we've hosted an open house for those patrons for, I think we've done it 3 years in a row. This will be our 4th year coming up. But it's, we have 100 VIPs. So there's probably, and everybody gets to bring a guest. So, there's typically over 100 people there, or around 100 people. And so it gets pretty crowded, and I think it's a lot of fun. A lot of people you get to meet a lot of people. There's a lot of excitement around there. But what I heard from this experience was essentially the same thing, but just with our new tier, the platinum tier, which is only 25 people. So it was really only around 20 people, I think, that ended up coming. Was just that it was a lot more low key, a lot, kind of calmer. Like people felt like they had more time and room to kind of really take it all in.
More personable.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier to spend that time. Like I loved hanging out with everybody, but specifically, I walked around with Krista and another one of our platinum members, Haley, and we kind of just, I just showed them everything I could think to possibly show them. I just started opening tubs, and I was just probably talking their ears off. But it was nice to be able to do that and not feel like, and know that I was still going to have time to also talk to everybody else, because at the VIP event is great, but I kind of feel like I get to say hi to everybody and say a couple things, but because I don't want to spend my time with one person the whole time and ignore 99 other people, you're a little disjointed. You're trying to make sure that everybody's happy. You're trying to make sure that you kind of spread the love around and check in on everybody and keep things moving. But with this smaller crowd, it was just really nice. It just felt more like we were all a bunch of friends hanging out, and then we all went to dinner afterwards, and a lot of them went on a hike the next day. So it was great. I loved it.
Yeah. And how much do you feel like summer, this kind of stuff helps people, especially because it's been a few years now since you guys been running a Patreon. And I already know the answer to this question, but I want to know what you have to say about what something like your guys' Patreon does for people in the ball python community, or even in the reptile business side of things. What have you seen growth wise from other people joining the family or the Patreon and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does a lot of things. I mean, I've been involved in other areas and like, communities like that. And I think the first thing is that it gives you a community, which you already know. You mean you have built a community around Trap Talk, and now you're doing your own Patreon and all that. And it does it builds a community, which is great. It gives people a place where they can feel like they have like minds. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
even though the reptile industry is small compared to like other things in the world, it's still big, and there's a lot of little sects and a lot of little groups and cliques and kind of weirdness, and it can be kind of hard to like find a place where you feel like it's okay to ask questions, it's okay to not know something. I think one of the biggest like
Yeah.
it's okay to be a beginner. Like that's kind of the point of the Patreon, is like we start from square one. Like if you go through all of the Kinova University videos, it's like, how do you start? How do you do this? Like, what is this all about? Somebody help me, please. Because, there's so much to learn, and there's so many disparate sources of information that just having something that you can come back to as kind of like, your homing sense, and kind of have that as a reference point and a group of people that you feel comfortable taking advice from and sharing your thoughts with, I think is just so valuable.
And that's the biggest thing, right? Because like, for instance, before all the Patreon stuff and being like giving something somebody could get an opportunity to take advantage of, to see, all right, I want to learn the seriousness of this and how I could move right, versus like you being that kind of way and meeting the wrong person who maybe has been around and just hasn't had success, or just maybe isn't the same mentality as you and wants to do this on a serious level. And think about how many people maybe in the past have gotten pushed away from this hobby because they didn't get the right advice. Like probably people who would have done really well by this, but first experience and first impressions are everything, and sometimes it just takes the wrong group to be kind of dabbling with, to make you feel like, well, I don't want to be a part of this. Like this, I'm gonna go back to the fishing game or something. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's crazy how much like it is to give people an opportunity where like you could see the people who are doing it right, and you can see the people who refuse to like try to help themselves, or what I mean? I'm not saying you have to join Patreon, but for anyone new who wants to learn and get the one up, like get literally like the cliff notes basically,
right.
But really like have, like you said, community, like not like that you and Justin are always going to pick up the phone and talk, but there's a group of you guys, like there's everyone who has asked same questions that other new people are asking, that can answer these questions for you and just kind of give you a better insight. Because I think insight's everything, right? And that's how you stick around, is by getting information from people who are successful, right?
Yeah, and I think the thing that I like is that, to me, if you've joined the Patreon, you're usually somebody who's willing to learn. We have people who are starting out with like, we have some people that literally have like a handful of snakes that are just pets. They're literally brand new. And then we have other people who have been doing this for decades on our Patreon. We have such a wide gamut. We have people from all over the world. And hearing those different, all the different experiences is so valuable. But also I think it attracts a certain type of person. It attracts people who, like I said, want to learn. And typically people who are willing to learn are also, in my experience, willing to help. They're willing to teach. They're willing to share. And that's different. There's a lot of people who are willing to preach. Those type of people are typically not the same type of people that tend to be, gravitate towards this kind of learning environment. And I just find it really useful. I mean, we have like, we have our Discord, we have the Patreon has like a chat on it. And then we also have like a WhatsApp group for our platinum patrons. And it's just so cool to see everybody talking. Again, like Justin and I will chime in, Chase will chime in. But, a lot of it is just them talking amongst each other and learning from each other too. And to me, that's really awesome to see.
And, obviously I'm tapped into a lot of different species community. Like, there's the green tree python community, the emerald tree boa. And the ball python community gets roasted a lot, but mainly because a lot of them act like they know it all. They act like they're like top tier, like important reptile breeder, when really we're just kind of having fun with morphs here. But like, you see people like that who don't want to learn and don't want to kind of take advice. I've seen Justin so many times be like, wow, I didn't know that. And like, maybe the person's wrong or right, but like he's open-minded to hearing stuff that maybe you have to say, or like, I just don't ever see like a cockiness from him and some of the other people who are just willing to listen and hear how other people think and what their thoughts are, you know. But man, those know-it-alls, man, those are the ones that are like, man, be careful by those guys.
Yeah.
The ones that, you know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying?
No, for sure. And I mean, that's like, not to toot Justin's horn too much, but I will attest to that. I mean, like I said, I sit in a room with him like half my life at this point.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's always, anytime there's something new that he hasn't heard before, like a way that people do things that he hasn't thought of, he's always intrigued. He's always like, wow, I wouldn't have thought of that. Maybe we should, you know, how can we try to employ that with us? We have one of our Patreon members, Mott's.
Yeah, shout out to Mott's.
Yeah.
That guy's so cool, man. That guy's really cool.
Yeah, he was just on here. He's such a cool guy, and he, you know, he's on the other side of the world, right? And like up by the North Pole or whatever. And he has such a different experience because of that. And I think also he has such a unique outlook. I know Justin has, like, just as an example, like a lot of fun talking with him about how he does things specifically because it's different. It's like he wants to know how he does it and if it's different and why it's different and why it works for him. And, you know, because to me, that's what all of this is about. Like, there's so much, you know, there's a lot of reasons you could love this hobby, this industry. I think, you know, most of all, everybody just loves the animals, but there's this kind of like never-ending quest, like for like new information, like exploration that is really appealing to, I think, a lot of us. I know Justin's that way. And I think, again, like just speaking back to like people who are on the Patreon, I think they're that way. They're always, even if they're successful, they're looking for ways that they maybe could be even more successful, or ways that they could change things up.
Yeah, you know, and I've had this, who would I have on the show? And the title was like, is breeding ball pythons that serious? And the reason why I say that is because, you know, you have people who are in this for different reasons. Like, you have people who legit have an insane career and they want something on the side where they can enjoy it. It's a fun thing for them. That's cool. Then you have people who do this where this is their life. Like, this is like, they obviously, and you could tell the people out there who are team this, team that on their morphs and everything, but it's like, you know, it's like, how do you really kind of respect someone's seriousness in the ball python game if they get upset about how you feel about a certain morph? And you know what, I'm about to get to the whole ultra male monarch thing, you know, like I have to, because it's kind of like, why do so many people vested in ultra male care so much about monarch and the newer things happening with monarch? And I can only think, well, the price. That's why people are so upset that monarch still is relevantly more expensive than ultra male stuff. And so immediately ultra male people, not everyone, but ultra male people are trying to give examples on how that shouldn't be. But I mean, isn't it about rarity here? Isn't that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think, to me, and it's just my opinion, I think like the turf wars over morphs are so silly. Like, they're all, again, like, that's where I feel like, to one point, it is that serious. Like, I make my living because ball pythons are being bred. So, you know, it's serious to me. Like, obviously, I want people to keep breeding ball pythons, but at the end of the day, whether you like a certain morph, or whether a different person that isn't you likes a certain morph more or doesn't, or does, or whatever, it's just a really weird thing to get worked up about to me. I think we're all, you know, there's so many projects out there. There's so many different ways that you can go about doing them, avenues you can take. People have different tastes. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people like tons of morphs that I don't like, or vice versa. And to get worked up about it, I think, is a little bit silly. But I think, like you said, if it is kind of a price thing, like upset that a certain project has more value than another project. Again, I think there's more ultramels out there in the world. So their price is going to drop. They've been around longer. I think that's just the way that every single morph project has gone. You know, over time, they get more saturated in the market. There's a bigger supply of them, and therefore the demand and the price drops. It's like pretty basic, like, economic principles that are kind of governing these things. And I think if people stepped back and realized that a little bit, they would not be so personally offended by people's opinions, or what people post or share, or what projects they have. Because it's really not, there is no person like I mean, people will disagree, but I'm telling you, there's no puppet strings. Like nobody's got like puppet strings on the ball python prices. If people don't want to pay them, they won't pay them, and then the prices will drop. That's how markets work.
Yeah, but the thing is with you guys, like you guys have to move so carefully, right? And I know, and we obviously addressed this a while ago. This whole Team Ultramel, it's been a thing for years. Like ever since I've been in the game since 2017 and started hearing about the two, that you just had two of the people favoring one or the other, right? But it really took a turn, and kind of really, the marketing for both kind of blew up when that vlog came out, and there was a bunch of Ultramel people saying, okay, Justin for sure is making Monarch specifically look more better than Ultramel because the editing, like there was like, like what, and it was obviously clear, like there was like, whoa, that thing's glowing, you know what I mean? But that was supposedly a big strategic move on your guys' part, right? Because you guys want people to be spending that money with Monarch and Ultramel.
Yeah, I mean, we just filmed a video for Ultramel the other day because we hatched a really cool clutch of them. The reality is that we film the clutches that we have at the time. And so if we don't have anything hatching for a while, we don't have anything to show and we can't film it. We don't sit on footage. We don't really hide snakes. I know a lot of people think we have like secret stuff. Like, again, we just had all of these patrons at our facility. They'll attest that.
Okay, I don't mean to stop you. I don't mean to stop you right there, Summer, but who cares if he's hiding stuff? Like isn't
people? I don't know, not me, but
crime though. Like if I made it, I should be able to show it if I want or if I don't want. Like I don't understand like how other people have the power to be like, you need to show me everything.
Well, again, it's weird. I think like I agree. It's really weird. I think he's held to a weird standard. I guess that just comes with being successful and being good at something. He's obviously been successful and he's been good at creating cool ball python morphs, and he's been good at presenting them in a way that makes people see why he's excited about them, and that's the skill, right? It's not that anybody can make cool ball python morphs, but there's a lot of cool ball python morphs out there, but your ability to express why you like something and have people connect with that is really what sells a combo or sells a project. And he's good at that because he's passionate, because he believes in the stuff that he's saying, you know what I mean? And so I think because of that, people feel like, well, if Justin posts it, then it's going to get more attention, or it's going to be, the price is going to, that's a big thing. People always say that, oh, once we make a video about something, like the prices are going to shoot up. I haven't seen that happen, really. I'm sure it has in the past. I know like with Red Stripe and stuff, which was before my time. But yeah, I mean, I feel like because he is good at marketing, he's held to a higher standard and people depend on him to market for the entire industry. And so if he doesn't market a project they like, or they don't feel like he's marketing it enough, then they have a beef about that. Or if they see that he's marketing something that they're not interested in, they have a beef about that because they're like, well, why is he favoring this project over another? When the reality is he's a single person, and we're a couple of people that work for him. And he just has stuff that he likes and doesn't like, or we have, again, a lot of it isn't even like or doesn't like. It's really just about the animals that are breeding. At this time of year, this girl laid and now her clutch is hatching. So that's the clutch that we have to show. And if we hatch something cool, that's the clutch he's going to be talking about. It's a lot simpler than people really try to make it out to be. People kind of project a lot of strategic, like evil genius type stuff where there really is none. It's just a bunch of people walking into a snake room and looking in the incubator and going, oh, wow, that's really cool. We should film a video on it. That's pretty much how it goes. I
learned so much from Justin, but right now, like if I ever get anywhere nearly as successful as this man's been in the reptile game, he's so nice. Like he bites his lip and doesn't say anything. And I think that's what a professional needs to do. Obviously, that's what makes a professional. And I thrive to be like that someday. But holy crap, if I knew I had stuff where people were demanding that I show it, it would just make me go even harder of not showing that stuff until I'm ready, obviously. But it's like, dude, this is I worked for this. Like I bred this. I spent money on this. Like I hire people to take care of this. Like this is mine. Like I could do whatever I want with it. You know what I mean? But it's also exciting too, because you do know anyone who's upset with how Justin moves with whatever, like they're right there watching on Friday. Oh, they're watching. Oh, they're all watching for sure. But I mean, I love Hetflix. I'm a huge Friday, and my son loves it too. I gotta tell you, but it's like something I look forward to, just because it's kind of like the news. It's kind of like, like what's up to date, And you guys don't miss a step, man. I remember, Justin wasn't. I don't think he was serious, but he was like, what do people want me to do? Not do Hetflix? Like, do they not want me to show stuff? Like, and I'm like, no, that would be the worst thing, right? Because regardless of who thinks what, everyone is ready to go Friday morning for that Hetflix. You know what I'm saying? Anyone who's relevant and anyone who wants to be relevant in the ball python game watches Hetflix. But do you guys? I know you guys say you don't sit on film, right? Or you don't sit on videos. So is it something where there's a certain day of the week where Hetflix is recorded and then put out Friday, or is it just depending on the week? Like how scheduled is Hetflix being recorded? Like how's that work?
I mean, like for instance, we just gave the final approval for tomorrow's video today.
Wow.
It was recorded. Now this is a kind of an atypical experience because this video actually was recorded in advance because this is footage from his visit to Japan.
Oh, cool.
That he finally got it off his phone and all of that and gave it to the editor. So that's what we're doing. We took a break for a week of filming at the facility and we're doing this video instead. So this one, there was a little bit of delay, but typically the most delay is like 2 weeks. We do film a little bit in advance if we have to, because Justin's going to be traveling. Like he's leaving at the end of this week to go to Norway, actually to visit with Mats. His whole family's going. They're doing a whole big thing. So
wow,
we did make sure like, hey, we need to film an extra vlog to make sure we have one while you're gone and we're not stuck with footage behind. But Chase and I can also film stuff on our own. So we're going to be doing some of that while he's away. But yeah, I mean, essentially it's pretty week by week. I mean, we're pretty much showing stuff as it's hatching. And the reason is because we're excited about it. So if something really cool hatches, as soon as it sheds out, we're like, how can we show this to people? And that's kind of why we don't have a lot of stuff that's like hidden or like secret. And just going back to that, I mean, all of the patrons were there, and this goes for any Patreon event or anytime anybody comes to our facility, this, we'll let you in the snake room and you just walk around and, we have cameras everywhere. So don't do anything sketchy, but open up whatever tubs you want. We don't have like a secret room that's locked or like you need a passcode to get in or like hidden snakes anywhere.
It's definitely open door policy at Kinova. It's like, dude, go ahead and do whatever you want. Obviously, just don't do nothing stupid, but listen, have fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can't wait to go back there. I really can't,
Yeah, we can help you out.
And I just, anyone, a lot of Patreon members who go to Kinova for the first time, I get so excited from them. Like, just watch. You're about to walk into something you've never seen before. And I've been to a lot of facilities. I've been all over, and nothing's been compared to Justin's at all. Like and what's crazy now, before I forget about this, like the Japan market, which I had really no idea it was that far in, like that, like where they have shows and people vending, which some of the cleanest tables I've ever seen. Like, like the way they, like, I almost felt like, Justin, did you get your style from these guys? Because like he's like that. Like if you walk into Kinova, it's super
very like clean and minimal and modern.
The window, it's like a Louis Vuitton almost, like of reptiles, right? But then when he was visiting and I forgot the guy's name. It's DRU or D? What's the
Do Reptiles? It's Hiro or Hiroki. Yeah,
Hiroki. Shout the guy. That guy. I chat with him every back and forth every now and again. But he was showing me pictures and stuff there at the show, and I'm like, dude, you guys all have the same like OCD cleanliness. Where I'm like, if we did that here, oh man, that would make us look so much better. But that would never happen. I know. Yeah. But it's like they put so much attention to detail there. And what do you know about the Japan market? Can you kind of give us anything that you have insights on, or like?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go to Japan, so I didn't get to experience any of it firsthand. But I know that I have been selling a lot of really, really high end stuff over there. They're bringing a lot of really nice stuff in. Dope. And I think from what Justin and Chase have told me is that they're kind of at a point where up until now, everybody there has really had a collector mentality. And it's just the start of them actually doing their own breeding projects. Like the first kind of wave of breeders is being fostered in. So I'll be really interested to see what kind of stuff they produce, knowing the quality of the animals that they're getting. They they have a great eye. They're very like, they're very smart. All the people that I've dealt with are very smart. They're very thoughtful about what they're purchasing. They're not, from us anyway, they're not just getting like cheap stuff to like resell or anything like that. You can tell that they're buying things for their own projects. So that's really exciting.
And it's because normally I remember growing up, like they used to say like Japan was quite ahead of us in technology. Like they have stuff like I'll never forget like a camera phone that they had in the late 90s. And I remember when cell phones first started coming out and I couldn't believe it. But in this case, ball pythons, it's, you know, they're it's not the other way around. So it's like, this is very interesting to see, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool. And I'm excited. I think the culture over there is just so different that like they were talking about how pretty much everybody there who's doing the breeding, they have like storefronts, like they have these really cool little shops.
Dude, cool.
Like downtown, you can walk to them, like stuff like that. So I don't know, you'll definitely have to talk to Justin and or Chase more about that because they were actually there. But it was really cool hearing about their just the way that it is there and like what their vision for it is, because it is very, like you said, they have a lot of like aesthetic about them, like carefully curated aesthetics for all of the breeders, and it's really cool.
We're gonna jump around.
We had more of that in the US.
I know, but you never know. Like seeing stuff like this could maybe only lead more newcomers wanting, and this is why I love Clutch so much, because like Clutch gives anybody new who's very organized to stay organized, because it's easy to like come into this and just see like, oh, little things you could get away with, like, you know, because man, I hate to try to make ball python guys look bad, but you could get away with a lot of shortcut with ball pythons. Like you don't need to go to the extent of doing so much, but then also by doing that, it separates you from all the others. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like it's cutting edge, you know, and I think that's kind of where we're headed with keeping reptiles. It's not a basement freaking grungy type thing anymore. Like there are clean, you know, healthy, not that, you know, snake creepers from back in the day were healthy, but I mean, they partied pretty hard, but it's different now. Like it's, you know, it's more of a family thing too. Like kids are really heavily into it. So
I mean, you can be like a normie and be into reptiles now. Whereas like before it's like, you're kind of all automatically in like an alternative crowd.
Or you didn't tell people about it. Like if you were normal and you had snakes, you didn't like it, you know.
No, for sure.
Kind of, it was something where if you invite someone over, they go, oh, wow,
like
you
a dirty secret in your basement. Yeah.
Who are you keeping down there? So, okay, I want to bounce around real quick because, you know, you have so many, you're kind of going back to the morph talk, right? You guys are the only reason, okay, and Nicole from Canada, but I have a hard time staying in there with Pied sometimes. Like I love Pied, but Pied sometimes could be something where like, great, what is in this Pied? Because, you know, Pieds could be hard to ID, right? How do you feel about Pied, and where do you feel like Kinova's at this year with the Pied stuff?
So yeah, I mean, I think for us, we definitely have felt that same kind of question that everybody's kind of felt. I mean, the thing is, we got to such a point with Pieds that say they were so beautiful that it's kind of like, okay, now what do you do? Like, you've made them like basically, I mean, we have some Pieds, like adult Pieds that are like super OD, YB, inchy, yellow, fire, like everything under the sun. And they look so amazing as adults. But it's like, what do you add to that? It's just going to make it that it's kind of like you're getting to a point of diminishing returns, and a point, like you're saying, where you're not even sure if it has that thing because it's diminishing returns. So everything's just changing it so slightly because it's already so beautiful and so bright and so clean that where do you go? So I think for us, we obviously are big into like triple multi-recessive. So we're taking it into clown. We've done clown Pied stuff. Obviously we want everything to have DG, to keep it clean, especially with Pied, it brightens it up so much. We've got, there's things that we're interested in that we haven't seen yet. I'm sure like the monsoon Pied. I mean, there's been I think some have been made, but haven't been shown. I'm not 100% sure about that, but we've never made any. I know that I think for us, it's going to be about seeing what the next, finding something that can really change the pattern up in a Pied. And that's been hard to do. And that's been kind of a limiting factor. It's been, we figured out how to make the color of Pieds amazing, but the Pied pattern is something that up until this point, it's been really hard to find a morph that really can alter that. So I think, I'm speaking for Justin here because really this is all his brainchild, but I know that's something that he's talked about is like, what can we do? What morph is there? Where can we find it? And if we can't find it, what do we need to do to create it somehow?
I would not want a lot of people to speak for me, but Summer, I feel like you would do a good job. I feel like you're someone who speaks for somebody well.
I try. I don't want to put words in somebody's mouth that they would rather spit out. So
I don't know. I'm so, a little frustrated because my Instagram's I can't get to it. And I want to show an example right now that kind of leads to my point. Like I kind of obviously dug it in. Like once I saw the Ultima people really kind of like getting into their feelings, I've always been a Monarch fan. Like because I like dark stuff first and foremost. So it's like my choice, but I was like always showing like why I like Monarch and like why I feel like Monarch is for me, not and not brighter stuff. But when Justin showed the Pied, he showed a Monarch Pied and one was very low white compared to the other. And the one that was like a mid white, it was beautiful, but it didn't look too much different than an Ultramel. Like I was like, I was looking at it
because we got so sorry, I don't want to talk over you, but
you're good.
Yeah, so that's another thing we can do in the Pieds is we can do things like Ultramel, Monarch, all that stuff is really cool.
Right.
But yeah, in that instance, like when you start to put something like fire into Monarch, you're kind of lightening it so that it actually just kind of looks like an Ultramel, and you're also kind of washing out the color a little bit because fire tends to make things a little bit like creamy and not as saturated. And so that's what you're seeing with that animal, if I'm remembering correctly. We have the one Monarch Pied that's like the mahogany yellow belly Monarch Pied. It's like really cool. Just the way it's super low white, the pattern is really distorted. It looks really nice because the mahogany brought in some darkness, which works really well with the Monarch because it is that darker kind of albino T positive type thing. Then you get fire and it just kind of works against it. So I think for us, like we want to take, and just with any combination, you want to figure out what kind of clicks well and takes it in the direction that amplifies what you like about it rather than fights against it. And I feel like that's just an example of where something kind of fought against the Monarch. And so that's maybe not the route for that project. Not that there's anything wrong with fire in general, but just in that situation.
Right. Was this the Monarch? This is the one I was talking about. The Monarch.
Super cool.
Dude, that's nuts. Mm-hmm. Oh man. And you had Ultramel people loving that snake too, just so you know, respectfully. Yeah. But that's why I'm like, is it okay? I'm not trying to direct anyone, but I'm like, is Monarch even worth putting in Pied if it's like, because more likely you are going to get mid to high white Pieds, right? And I like Monarch because there are certain Monarch combos that you could tell straight right there, okay, this is not the same as Ultramel, like, and so I'd rather keep it that way, right? But then what you're saying also is you could do that maybe with Monarch Pied, but you got to watch what else you put in it.
Yeah. And I think that's just the downside of Pied in general. There's inevitably going to be a lack of predictability with whether something, I mean, there's a couple of morphs that we all know that can kind of reliably add pattern back onto a Pied or reliably take it away. But for the most part, you're always going to end up with some variability there. And that's something you just kind of have to live with. I mean, there's been some really great combos, I think, that we've hatched that we were like, dang it, if it was like not so high white, because it's just like, we want more of that pattern there. And that's something that's really frustrating. And if that frustrates you, then maybe, that's just not something you want to dabble in. But I find it ironic because like you do the green trees, which are like, who knows what they're going to look like after even they hatch.
Yeah, and not that you get disappointed, but there had been people who had made snakes available because it turned out not how they thought they were going to turn out. Too green or it's not black enough or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm sure people who've sold snakes that they're like, dang it, I should have kept that one.
And those snakes right there, man, like there are people who spend like $6,000-$7,000 on a baby green tree python because they feel like, oh, this is going to look like, and more like it. Sometimes you could tell like that red needle is going to be nuts, but that's not always the case. And sometimes you got to get what you need, get what you get. But for me also too, like the way I looked at it is like, if it's something that's hard to ID, right? Or if it's even something where whatever, like I would just keep it myself. I'll hold on to it. I have no problem holding on to something that I know what's in it if it's going to be hard to sell. Because also too with Pied, You have people who just want to be able to look at something that has pied where they don't have to think about, okay, does it have orange stream or does it have, like, they want to know for certainty. You know what I mean? And what's helping pied, as you know, is having another recessive in it. Like, look at DG pied stuff. Hold on. Look at DG pied hypo stuff. Holy crap.
Really
like, man. And can you please tell me right now, Summer, has hypo really saved a lot of these other genes? Like hypo makes almost everything better.
Hypo's had a huge resurgence. I remember I think it was the Arlington show, not the most recent one, but the one before that I went to. And I was just like, hypo is everywhere, kind of out of nowhere. I think it's getting its due a little bit. People are realizing how much of an impact it can actually have. I think for a while, maybe people just thought it was kind of one note, like, oh, it's hypo. It makes it look like it's in shed or whatever, but it really can clean stuff up and bring something really unique to the table for a lot of the combos. So I really love it. And I think that, it's a great thing to be incorporating.
I mean, especially if you look about something like DG, right? Because we all know DG still has a good run. Obviously, it's still very relevant. But with how many people invested only in DG and like clown and stuff like that, like when they didn't really think about what hypo and DG could do together, like it literally gave DG a whole nother boost. Like as we started seeing hypo DG stuff, it made DG even more relevant again. You know what I'm saying? But then that's not even only the case with just DG, like hypo pied stuff. Like all I'm saying is how far can you really go with DG or even pied without having hypo in it? Like you almost it's almost irrelevant. It's almost obvious that you have to have hypo in the mix. I feel like I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely areas where you might want like that rich black, but if you're going for brightness and cleanness and all of that stuff, hypo's going to take you, that much further there, 25% more there. I mean, we just hatched a hypo, inchy hypo clown pied, and it's gorgeous.
Oh.
It's not DG, but it's gorgeous even without, and I almost kind of prefer it in a sense without the DG because you get a really cool orange with the hypo pied stuff. Like you get that. It's a nice contrast, like the complementary colors of like orange and purple that you get with the hypo pied stuff that I think is really appealing. DG pieds are also great, but the DG makes it more of a yellow. So it's just like a different color palette. And I think that's really what it's all about, is figuring out what works for the specific combo, the specific kind of vision that you have. And kind of tweaking from there. And to your point about like stuff being hard to ID, I mean, that's one of the reasons. That's a big factor in why I know, again, I'm speaking for Justin, but it's a pretty big factor in why we decide to kind of stop going down a different direction. If stuff gets too hard to ID, if we realize that a certain morph makes things more complicated to ID, we venture away from that a lot of the times because it's typically not worth it. If it's just making things more confusing, it makes them harder to sell. If it's harder to sell, it's harder to get, people invested in the project and wanting to do it. And it just kind of doesn't work overall. So at the point that things become so complicated or the changes are so minute that you can't really tell if something's there or not, it kind of stops being worth the squeeze.
I just feel like with pied, you have to pay a lot of dues. Like you have to like kind of put in some legwork before you really kind of start making pies where people aren't even questioning them. They're like, oh my God, I want that. You know what I'm saying? I like that girl Nicole. You know what I mean? She's Canadian Regis.
Yeah. She's got the black xanthic pied stuff.
Dude,
my gosh. Or TSK or whatever we want to call it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think also to Pied's credit, I think Pied was one of the more heavily worked recessives earlier on. So I think what we're seeing with Pied is just that it's been so developed. It took decades to get there with Pieds. And what I think we're seeing is just that it's a very mature project. And when you get to a very mature project, I think inevitably there's fewer avenues to take it. When you have something that's brand new or kind of untouched, the world is your oyster. But with Pied, people kind of found a lane with it and they really drove it to that fullest completion. They passed the finish line on like the bright orange intense Pieds. And now it's just a question of what else can we do with it, if anything. And maybe there's not much else to do with it, but somebody out there probably has some really cool ideas.
I mean, if it's one thing about Pied, it's here forever. I'll tell you that much. It
People
is.
are always going to love it. I mean, I had somebody emailing me today. They wanted a snake for their kid's birthday. They wanted some cheap stuff. So I sent them a bunch of options and they sent back and said, do you have any that have white on them? And I was like, well, let's get a Pied because everybody loves Pieds.
It's that number one introductory morph for like to pull that person in. It was for me. I'll never forget seeing my first Pied. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, shout out to Pied. Now I have a question because obviously it sounds easy, right? Like, oh, like you got to find out what mixes well and what you like. But when you're new into this and you keep finding morphs left and right, it is overwhelming. So another thing, right? It's one thing dealing with emails and going back and forth, but sometimes when people give you money, Summer, not you directly, but just, pay you for a snake, they feel they are entitled for your advice and information, right? And that's cool. I mean, I'm all up for mentorships. That's what Patreon's for and everything. But even a customer, if someone's spending money with me, I'll do my best to help you out. But I'm sure you guys get this a lot. When someone buys an expensive snake or just an investment snake, they ask you, well, what should I do with it? Or what morph should I put into it? Right? How do you answer that? You know what I mean? Like if they don't know where to start and they just bought something, like what do you tell them?
That's when I say, I mean, again, I kind of have like a little pitch that I just have memorized, like, hey, awesome, so there's different scenarios. Like if somebody has like a specific question or like they present an option, like I had this actually it was another person recently that was, they picked out a Pied actually. And they said, because they loved Pieds, and they said they wanted this snake to go with their female, and they had all these questions about it. I could tell they were new. And so I wrote them back and I said, well, what's your female? And they told me, and it's, to be frank, it was a horrible pairing. And so I nicely pointed them in a different direction, even though they really, really wanted this Pied. And I was like, look, this Pied is a beautiful snake. If you want it, it's going to be great. But if you're trying to start a breeding project, which is what she was trying to do, right. I would not, it wouldn't be my recommendation. I would go this snake. I ended up, selling her a cheaper snake. But I didn't want somebody to get something that they weren't going to be, wasn't going to do what they wanted it to do. You know what I mean? It wasn't going to give them the results that they wanted. They were trying to breed a coral glow, something or the other. And this was like an OD YB fire Enchi Pied. And I was like, you're not going to be able to tell what the babies are. It's just not going to be great. And ultimately she was really appreciative. She was like, I'm so glad that you told me all that stuff because most people would have probably just sold me the first snake I asked about. But ultimately I would rather, again, like try to educate people. And generally if people don't have a specific question, if they just buy a snake, and we do have people who buy like very expensive snake, like thousands of dollars. And then they say, what should I pair it with? It's like, well, that's a very loaded question. I usually just point them to the Patreon. I say, look, we have a whole series of videos. At this point, we've got 4 years worth of content backlogged up on there. And I link them to a specific video. It's the start of our Kinova U. And I say, look, you can start here because that first video you can watch for free. And then, you do have to subscribe after that. But that first video will give them a lot of the information they need. And then if they want to keep going down and going down the journey of that first series that we did, then they can subscribe if they want to. And, because it is too much for anybody to explain to somebody one-on-one.
Right.
It's just, we don't have the time. We answer as many questions as we can and we give as much advice as we can, but we can't walk somebody through their entire journey minute by minute. There's just too many people that we have to be communicating with.
Yeah. I mean, it's also smart to avoid doing that because like people need to figure out what they want. Like they have to like,
I want to tell you.
Yeah. It's like, dude, like, okay. Artists is like you people who like paint stuff, like don't just copy other people's work. Like what they do is they kind of maybe get inspirations and examples, but like at the end of the day, when you have a blank canvas, you can do whatever you want. Like that's why it's kind of like, man, like don't be lazy on spending some time researching, because research is work, but when you want it that bad, it's fun, it's kind of, but also too, it all depends on the individual, right? And I feel like the ones who probably struggle the most are the ones who want to hurry up and like,
that's what I was going to say.
Either like they want to either see if they could do it, or first and foremost want to try to be known for something right off the bat. And it's kind of like, you know, like you kind of like, first and foremost, you can't predict where things are going to go because we're talking about living things, right? Like just because you buy an animal doesn't mean it's going to breed for you. Like we need to accept that first and foremost. Things with ball pythons, it's very unlikely that that's going to happen. Ball pythons are so freaking awesome. They're easy. It's like if you stick to the 101s out there, which are all over the place, you are going to have a good time.
Yeah.
You know, but you all, you know, there's no guarantees no matter what. So
yeah, no, it's so true. And I think that's a lot of people are in a really big rush.
yeah.
And the thing that I think you'll learn as you get deeper into this is that you'll be forced to be patient. You know, you're going to have to wait for those animals to grow up. You're going to have to wait for them to ovulate. You're going to have to wait for them to lay. You're going to have to wait for the eggs to hatch. Like there's so many things that are, that you're going to have to wait for.
Yeah.
And I think people, when they first get in, sorry, I'm going to try to my camera does this every now and then.
You're
it's
good.
Like weirdly blurry. There's just so many things that you're going to have to wait for, that getting in and kind of gunning for, what do I do next? What do I do next? What do I need? Everybody wants to know what to do next. And sometimes you just need to sit with what you have and just, like you said, absorb it, learn, take it all in.
Yeah.
I mean, go on all the deep dive rabbit hole, YouTube. There's so much content on the internet about ball pythons that you can just absorb. And the best way to learn about all the morphs, all the combos, all the breeding stuff is to just sit with it for a while.
Yeah, I mean, think about people who learn new languages. Like, do you think that shit happens overnight? Like,
no, you have to go to the country and immerse yourself.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah.
But that's like I think that's what it is too, because I feel like people are like, oh my God, how am I going to remember all this stuff? So they do try to rush, but it's like if you just hang around long enough and if you ask questions and if you listen and it becomes second nature. Like,
yeah,
oh, for sure. I never thought. I mean, there are a lot of ball python stuff that I forget about morph wise because I try to just keep my mind around what I feel is relevant. But you know, many times people hop on a show and they bring up something. I'm like, what is that? And and then I'm like, holy crap. And then they're like, oh yeah, Justin talked about this 6 months ago. And I'm like, he did. And it's like, no matter what you do, there is times where you're just not going to know everything.
Right.
But you'll know a lot. And the thing is, like, if you're very passionate and you are hanging around the right people, you find out a lot within the first year. The first year is like, but then the second year is even crazier. You just gotta, and also too, Summer, I mean, I can't believe you've already been at Kinova for over 4 years now. Like, how long has it been? It's
about
4 years.
It will actually be 5 years in the fall from when I first started working there. Not when I did this position, but when I first started like cleaning cages and stuff.
How quick did that go by? Seriously.
I'm old. That's all I know.
You're not as old as me. But I'm saying though, like, it's kind of like when you are so involved, but then also having fun doing it, it just flies by.
Yeah,
like
it's been great.
It's crazy how quick it goes by. It's scary, but it's also like, wow. So I'm trying to tell anyone out there who's trying to figure things out tomorrow, like, dude, just relax. Like,
yeah, you have time.
Yeah, especially if you're spending money. Like, spending money and trying to hurry is a bad combination in this. Like, you just got to understand that you just bought an expensive snake, yes, and someday hopefully it'll do something for you. If not, you got a cool looking snake too. But it's like that with anything you buy, chondros, emeralds, it doesn't matter. If you're gonna dabble, like, you got to enjoy it for what it is and just hope for the best, you know.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. A lot of people, they spend a little bit of money and they start to feel like, I have to do something now. Like, I spent money, so now I have to do something. And I like that approach that you're taking, where it's like, at the end of the day, especially when you're first starting out, buy it because you want it, not because you want it to like do something for you.
Right.
Because it might not. I mean, again, 99.9% of the time it will. But, you know, if you go into with that expectation, you're putting so much pressure on yourself that it seems like it's less enjoyable, and it really should be fun. No matter what you're doing this or what your goals are, you should be having fun with this. If it's not fun, there's something amiss.
Right. Exactly. That's why I'm like, man, like, no matter what the market is like what's happening in the market, like, if you have cool stuff and you know it, dude, have a good time. Or, you know, or if you keep something you love, that should be a win. Like, you know, because think about people who are probably sitting on so much stuff that they don't want. And that's like, man, you know, first and foremost, if you are one of those people, just figure it out. And because it's not going to get any better, just not doing nothing about it. I'll tell you that much. Also, too, what do you think? Summer people just posting their racks for sale, still people dropping off. Like, how are you looking at that?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we've had an upturn. Like, we feel like the things are on the trending in the right direction now.
Right.
But I mean, I think there's always going to be like a lag in the response. There was like a lag in the response to things slowing down. People were still producing too much, which then exacerbated the issue. And I think we're still going to have people who haven't seen, who aren't seeing kind of the light at the end of the tunnel yet, who are going to be hopping off the train. And I think it's inevitable. I feel sorry about that in some ways, but then at the same time, it's like, if it's not serving you anymore, then don't do it. It's if you're not interested and you've lost your passion for it, that's sad to see anybody go, but at the same time, it's better for the people who stick around, honest, at the end of the day.
It's better for the hobby.
Yeah. It's better. It's better for everybody. And it's better for the animals, because if you're doing it half-heartedly, then things are going to be slipping. Not that anybody would, I'm not saying anybody's malicious or anything like that, but it's just, if your full focus and attention and passion isn't there, then, those animals are probably better served in another situation.
Yeah. Now, speaking of situations, like, how's something processed? And because obviously, since you've had such a hands-on with the sell side of things, I know for sure dealing with so many animals, maybe there is something that happens. Not a lot, because these ball pythons are great, but like, for instance, if you have somebody who spends X amount of money on a snake, like, what's a standard rule, right? And I know, like, I mean, if we're talking like, I don't want to say the value doesn't matter, but it kind of does. Like, let's say someone drops $10,000 on a snake, right? Mm-hmm. And then 30 days later, something's up with that snake, right? And, and they come back to you. And I always try to preach, like, listen, as soon as you see something wrong with any snake at that value, you need to let them know. Like,
that's the thing.
You don't wait. You don't wait, right? And, I did have a situation come up where they did get a snake from you, and I asked them, like, when did you let them know? And it was months later, apparently, right? And I feel like, man, like, that's so much.
That's the thing, is
so much could happen. You know what I mean? Like, that something that you maybe didn't see, but so much could happen in that time period where you can't go back to the seller because
right.
Well, snake, you know what I mean?
The number one problem that people have with ball pythons is obviously they don't adjust well. They can't get them on food or whatever. And I just wish that people, like you said, the first time that it doesn't eat for you or that something is off, let us know, because this isn't something that we've never dealt with before. We're not going to think you're a bad keeper. We're not going to think you don't know what you're doing. We're not going to judge you.
Right.
Yeah. We want the animal to succeed. And the reality is that with ball pythons in particular, and there's like science to back this up, like on like a behavioral science level, with the way they are as animals. They do not adjust. They do not handle transition well. They do not handle change well. And so if they're unhappy, if they're stressed, their number one stress response is going to be to go off feed. That's just part of their species. And so if we can address it as soon as possible to try to figure out what is causing them not to eat, what is it about this new situation that they don't like, that's making them uncomfortable. A lot of the time, it's just a change in general. A lot of the time, they're coming from our setup, which they've been in their whole life, and then they're going to a new place. It's totally different. But if you can figure out, like, most of the time, it's simple stuff, really simple fixes. Move it to a smaller size tub, add a hide, make sure the temps are, like, maybe sometimes people keep temps a little too hot. There's like really, really simple stuff that can fix it. And 99% of the time it does. But if we don't know that there's a problem, we can't help you. And if you don't let us know that there's a problem we've had people wait like 6-8 months and then contact us and say, hey, I've never been able to get this snake to eat. And at that point, it's like either already died or like withering away to nothing. And it's like, well, I would have loved to help you. But at this point, it's kind of beyond there's nothing really we can do. But we'll take the snake back and get it back on food for people. Like we'll, if somebody's having issues where they feel like we have a snake right now that somebody felt like it wasn't as strong of a feeder as the other animals that it had like a weird poop and they were just concerned about it. So we're like, hey, send it back to us. We'll we'll observe it, we'll get it feeding good, if we need to treat it for anything like fungal, like bacteria stuff in the gut, we'll do that. And then when we feel like it's ready to go, we'll send it back your way. And that's something we're totally willing to do, because at the end of the day, even if it's a $500 snake, we want the snake to live. We want the animal to be okay.
Right.
And we want you to have a good experience with it. But yeah, we recently had somebody who bought, I think it was an $8,000 snake. And if they had contacted me within any reasonable amount of time, we would have been able to, I know for a fact we would have been able to help their animal. Unfortunately, the animal died because they didn't reach out, and it was not, they were doing the best they could, I'm sure, and what they thought was correct for the animal. But I took one look at the setup and I knew why the snake hadn't thrived. But at that point it was already dead. So it's hurtful for us too. We're always like bummed. We're like, dang it, I wish this had gone differently.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like everything living, it is possible for something to be either weaker or something that's not how the rest are, right? But then, that's something where you address and let the person know right away, and then you fix it, right? But then when you have somebody who just doesn't follow directions good, or just feel like their way of keeping is better, and then they need help, and then you look and you see the heat pads actually inside the enclosure and they're laying on it, but then by this point it's already dead, and then it's like, dude, if you would have hit me up right away and showed me what you were keeping, how you're keeping it, I could have saved this animal. Like I could have saved you from a lot. You know what I'm saying? But it's kind of like, I feel like sometimes they feel embarrassed, or feel like, man, maybe they won't sell me a snake again. But it's the exact opposite. Like if this snake does die on you and you come back, you're probably never going to want to buy a snake anyways. Like it's a terrible experience. You know what I mean? And so, and I feel like a lot of times it can be avoided if it's just addressed right away. And I just, especially when it comes to these high-end stuff, like why wouldn't you want to speak up immediately on it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'd be so paranoid if I had spent that much money on a snake. I'd be like, help every second of the day. But no, I think, and as far as like what we do, I mean, we understand when somebody buys a snake like that, that's a big investment. And if you're trying to breed, like if you lose something that was going to be a big part of your breeding plan, that's a big deal. Like that can really set you back. And of course, ultimately, a lot of the times we can't actually replace the animal because we don't have another one. But I mean, we'll definitely try to help people out. I mean, again, the sooner you reach out to us, the more we're able to do. Ideally, we'd like to make it where the animal lives and thrives. But if that's not possible, we'll give you a credit towards something else. We'll try to find a replacement for you. Things like that. I mean, even if it's been a while, we'll do what we can within reason. But at the end of the day, you also have to realize that we can't be responsible. This sounds bad. We can't be responsible for other people's mistakes.
Yeah. And, also too, like mistakes, no matter how you look at it, will happen. Like, especially if you're growing things.
And we make mistakes.
Dude, it happens. But you got to be that individual who is, and first and foremost, I think if you want it, it's kind of like the whole patient things, right? I'm an impatient person, but coming in this, I started realizing how having patience pays off. And actually the more like monk and stuff you can become being patient, it only makes your life easier doing this. Like but it's also a lot easier said than done, but you get better at it. But also, as far as, I don't know where I was getting at with that, but I think just kind of wanting to be open to want to learn and understand that mistakes will happen. What fail stands for, right? First attempt in learning. That's kind of you have to it got to the point, I remember especially getting the chondros and like getting imports, and I would take it hard when I would get an import and it would die on me or something. But then I would realize like, oh my God, you just found out what killed this import, or you found out like what it was that this thing had, where you are now knowledgeable of if that thing is happening again in front of you. You know what I'm saying? So I almost there was a point where I was I wanted to fail. Like I didn't like it, but it was like, okay, I just learned this. You know what I mean?
Right. And every it's data, you know what I mean? That you keep collecting.
It's a data toolbox, right? And then not only that, like these experiences that you have, and you share this with other experienced people, like you even learn more bouncing back and forth, And I got to tell you right now, what kind of makes you respected in this game is by sharing your failures and being open about like, dude, don't do this. You know what I mean? Especially when you have success and you're still showing your failures, that shows a lot. And
everybody's human, I mean, I think like that's such a good point, and that's why I say like please come to us, because Justin has hatched tens, if not hundreds, at this point, of thousands of ball pythons.
A lot. Yeah.
Maybe not. No. It's tens. It's tens.
Tens of thousands.
We have numbers in our clutch.
Wow.
I want to say it's like maybe, but this only goes back to 2017, so maybe it is more than this.
It is.
It's 20,000 in clutch, I think.
That's a lot.
And then there's more pre 2017, so it's a lot of ball pythons. So he's seen a lot, and he has had his share of failures along the way, and learned a lot. And he's also talked to a lot of people. He's sold a lot of snakes. He's, you've dealt. There's very rarely a situation that arises that we haven't already dealt with in some way. You know what I mean? And we learn from the way that we dealt with it. Maybe the first time we didn't deal with it the right way and it turned out badly, and then you learn for the next time. And so we can share that with people. And that's, again, why the Patreon is so useful, because you have all of these people who have had all of these different things go wrong, and they've approached them one way or the other, for better or for worse. And we can all share in that information and hopefully work toward a better future where we don't have to have these problems keep happening.
It baffles me how people would want to say how Justin like hoards information or whatever, when that's like the exact opposite. Like, I mean, obviously he doesn't publicly go on a radio station and tell everything, but like, it's not hard to kind of get in some sort of good graces with Justin, where he'll fucking give you whatever information you want. Like, he's so willing to help people out. You know what I'm saying?
We also have like 500 YouTube videos that show like everything going back to like 2008. So it's like, I don't know what doing people are like that. You're like, it's like,
what? Anyways, it's kind of goes back to, you can't make everyone happy no matter what, and like I said, like when Justin was like, well, what do people want me to do? Stop doing het flicks? People would still find a reason to be upset about that. You know what I'm saying? Actually, I know I would be upset if there was no het flicks. And I know there would be a lot of other people upset if there was no more het flicks on a Friday. That's a given.
I'd be upset. I enjoy that. I like filming them. I think it's fun. And it's cool to be able to share that and connect with people, and give people something to look forward to, something to kind of a little window into what we're doing. It's really valuable, I think, for us as well. I think the more, but I'll be honest, it makes it hard. It does, because you start to feel like a little bit like unappreciated. Like, it does take a lot of time and energy and effort to do all that and put it together. And like, we pay someone a full salary to do all the videos and all that stuff. And that's not something we have to do. Something we do because we like doing it.
YouTube does not pay this off at all. Like,
no,
it actually costs you guys money to do this.
1,000,000% costs us money.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
A lot of money.
So it's definitely just, it's just disheartening. But then I try to think about, for me, it's always about the people. I mean, this sounds bad, but at the end of the day, I don't really care about haters, or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't really care about the people that I care about are the people who have never seen a ball python before, and somehow they find our video and they think ball pythons are cool. Or they learn, or somebody who's just figured out ball pythons and is trying to learn everything they can and starts going down a Netflix rabbit hole. Like, those are the people that I make the videos for, like, deep down in my soul, like who I'm thinking about, because I'm thinking, what a cool world this is that not a lot of people know about. And there's so much to learn once you do know about it. Once you know about it, you still don't know about it, because there's so much to learn. And those are the people that care and that are interested in just, exploring all of this weird reptile stuff. That's who I make the videos for. If you're over it and you're jaded and you're, it's you against the world, then that's fine. But there's a lot of other people who are not that way and who are excited and just really love everything that's coming out of this industry.
I mean, because why even care for somebody who doesn't care no matter what you do? Like, no matter what you do, they're still going to be upset. They're still going to be talking shit. And those are people you can't help. But you can help the people that want help. You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's what it comes down to is like, and especially I think it's hard because Justin doesn't see himself as anything other than himself, like just a normal person. And if you've spent any time with him, that's how he is. He's just a normal person. And so it feels very personal, to be honest. It can feel very personal because, you know, you're putting as you're doing right now, we're all putting ourselves out there, you know, for the internet. And when things are taken out of context or exaggerated or hyperbolized or whatever, like, you know, and that's not your intention. That's not who you are. That's not what you've done. It feels like you're just really up against a rock and a hard place. And for what? But again, I try to remember the for what. The for what is all of the people who, like you said, do care, do enjoy it, do learn from it. And that's who we want to make the videos for.
And Justin said this too. Like if everyone was against him, he would still do this because he loves it. Like this is what he wants to do. Like regardless of, but also like we need to realize what this man loves to do benefits all of us. Like you know what I mean? Like all this information, you know, being put out Fridays, all it does is feed the fuel for this entire hobby. You know, and I'm talking people who aren't even in the ball python game watch Netflix, and I know because they tell me. You know what I'm saying? So. Dude, like the fact that this guy shares what he loves and he'll do it anyways. That's what I'm saying. And I think that's what makes Justin is because regardless of how people look at him, he's still going to be doing this. This is his thing. This has been Justin's thing for years. And he just happens to be the leader of it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you can't keep him out of the snake room.
I'm
sure Joy has tried. Like he's going to be in there late at night, looking at the cutting a clutch or whatever, pairing up a female. That it seems to be ingrained in his brain somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think for sure there's just an element of, unfortunately, a negative that comes with a certain level of success, which is just that you're going to have that some people that don't like you, no matter what you do. And no matter how hard you try, no matter how earnest you are, you have to just learn to let that go and speak to the people who, you know, who matter and who are trying to learn.
I mean, because if you really look at it, there's so many supporters, so many people who like, I mean, I know people who support not only myself, but you guys where they don't even have time to pay attention who's booing. Like they're not even listening. Like, you know, and what's crazy is a lot of people don't really know who the booers are because they're so involved. And when you're involved, you're not really paying attention to the noise. You know, it's kind of when you're bored, like when you're here for the wrong reason and you're just kicking around and maybe not having a good time, then you're listening to all the bullshit happening. You know what I mean? But when you are in this for the right reason and all you care about is
I'm always late to the drama because I'm always like, people will be like, did you see this person? I'm like, no, I haven't seen anything. I haven't checked anybody's Instagram. Send me screenshots, I guess, because like I'm not going to see it on my own. It's just I don't have the energy or the time, to be honest, to like just be keeping up with everybody's everything at all times.
You only get so many hours in a day, right? So it's like, dude, days go by quick.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, I guess, and again, I don't want to harp on this, but I guess my overall like arching view is kind of like, why not? Let's say you don't like something that somebody's putting out, you disagree with it, why not, if you're passionate about something, like we're using Ultramel and Monarch here. If you're passionate about Ultramel, then make a video about Ultramel.
Yeah.
Show why Ultramel is awesome.
Right.
You take up that charge. Don't just get mad at other people. Like,
and nobody's gonna stop you either. Like, so like do it. Like who's
because that's all Justin's doing. That's all. I mean, that's all anybody who's doing this is doing is they're saying, I love this.
Yeah.
So I think this is really cool. I think XYZ, and they're sharing how they feel. And so if you feel a different way, share how you feel, but you don't have to do it. There doesn't have to be a negativity aspect to it. There can just be multiple people who like multiple different things, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's kind of gives us freedom to do what we want, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, I have a wrap-up topic for you, and I want to kind of, because we didn't get too deep into the conversation of clutch.
Yeah.
But let's paint a picture here, right? Like, let's say you're at the Clutch booth. I'm a customer but I'm building my collection.
Yeah.
But I ask you, Summer, why would I need Clutch? Like, what would you say to me? Like, for anyone out there who's wondering, like, what, I am getting more snakes and I do have this amount and I want this amount, but why should I use Clutch?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the answer is going to be different for everyone. And for what I would say is Clutch is going to be for you if you're somebody who likes to keep records. You like to have an easy, clean way of interacting with the animals that you have in your collection and seeing them kind of from a bird's eye view without having to physically be in your snake room. If you like to, if you like to track what's going on, see all the details about your snakes, the collection that you're building, and then also if you want to envision what you can do in the future with that collection, using some of the breeding tools that we have, I think that Clutch is going to be great for you to start with. And I would recommend, for a lot of people, if you're just starting out, you may not have that many snakes. You might want to wait until it gets to be too much to keep on paper, right? But there's going to be a certain point where, unless you're a whiz with Excel, which if you are, more power to you. But unless you are, it's going to become really tedious to keep track of all of this stuff that you need to keep track of. And the goal of Clutch is to make it easy to do for large collections and small collections, and also kind of fun to do. It's meant to be a fun way to keep track of your animals. So it's not a chore. So it's easy, so it's pretty, so it's clean. So you can log in and have just as much fun playing around in your Clutch account as you can playing around in your snake room. I mean, that's what I would say. If you're looking for, if you're somebody that only has 2 snakes, do you need Clutch? No. But if you're thinking about building a collection, being in this hobby for a long time, having animals come into your collection, leave your collection, breed animals, anything like that, it's going to be a really valuable tool. And it's only going to become more feature rich as we go on. It's just going to keep getting better. It has been and still is a very young product. You know what I mean? And
definitely.
Certainly when we were in our beta phase and the first year, we were working out a lot of kinks and kind of figuring out what we wanted to be and how we needed to get there. And right now we're just steamrolling down a path of releasing some really, really important updates to the main core functionality, which is the inventory management. So we've completely redone the reptiles page, the filtering, how that all works. We're going to be launching a feature soon that allows you to customize your list. So basically your views that you have, like right now we have an active view, which is all of the animals that are kind of like in your snake room. Then we have an archive view, which shows you all of your animals that you maybe once had, but don't anymore, like you sold them or they passed away. But we're going to be making those customizable and also allow you to create your own, so that if you want to make a view where it just shows you your holdbacks, you can have that view. If you want to make a view where it just shows you male desert ghosts under $500, I don't know why. If you just want to make that view and you want to have that saved as a preset, you can save that. And also you're going to be able to share those lists. So if you have animals, let's say that for me, we have animals that we might be, maybe we want to make them available only to Patreon members, like a certain list of animals. I could create that list. I can save it for a preset. It'll update constantly. So if I add animals that fall into those categories with whatever filters I've chosen, it'll constantly be updated. I can share that link to our Patreon members and they can always see an updated list of let's say adults that we have for sale. Because we currently do that on spreadsheets, but we'll be using this for Clutch and moving forward once this feature is built. So that's going to be the next thing to roll out as far as a really big new feature. And the next thing is just shed testing. We're always trying to upgrade the shed testing that we offer. It's one of the biggest things that we offer, and the ability for not just to order the shed tests, but for those tests and the genetic results to be linked to your animal and shown, and you get an actual certificate from us and RGI, certifying that these are the morphs that are on your that are in the snake that they detected from the shed that you sent in. And so we're actually updating the structure of all the shed tests, because now that RGI has, again, they're a new company too. They've developed what they've been able to do and have been able to lower their costs of actual operation a lot. So we're going to be lowering the cost of the shed testing, making it possible to buy multiple tests for a snake, like up to basically in any test. And I'll just give you guys a little preview of what our pricing is going to be. So it's going to be, we have standard tests, which are the tests that are kind of common property. I forget the word, but like not RGI's like exclusive intellectual property.
Right.
Those tests are $50. The RGI tests are going to be between $60 and $65, depending on how new they are. But then if you want to buy more than one test for a reptile, if you buy 2, it's just going to be $75. 3, it's going to be, I think it's $90. 4, like 105. Like it's just going to go up and up, but get less and less until you get to, 4 is going to be 110. And then beyond that, anything you add is just $10 extra for a test.
Cool.
So
well, I mean, that's a huge relief for anyone out there who has like fucking 60 shed tests. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So when you're trying to test a snake for multiple morphs, it's going to be a lot more affordable. And I'm really excited to roll that out because I know that's going to help a lot of people out.
Yeah, it's exciting. And also it's just game changing, right? Like think about that. Like, you know, no more of these 66% will be questioned or even pos hets, right?
Yeah.
Like pos het is the future pos hets is just almost done. You know what I mean?
Right. And they're going to be launching so many more tests. I mean, we have the TSK/black axanthic test now. I know they're working on one soon. They've got so many in the bank. And then the fact that they're all these fast tests now. So everything is turnaround. Like if you get them your shed for those fast tests, it's like a 1 or 2 day turnaround.
Wow.
So, I mean, like it's so fast. You're not having to wait months and months anymore or like in the past. So yeah, it's really exciting. And we're also like launching this. I know most of the people here are probably in the US, but like we have partners in Japan, in the UK, we have South Korea. We're talking now with
Awesome.
We're setting up Thailand. So we're working on expanding this so that all of these shed testing capabilities are going to be available to all those international markets too, which is going to help their ball python markets thrive. So
yeah, it's going to help everything, period. Wow. That's exciting.
I see somebody in the chat said, Summer, we heard a rumor about a new allelic gene in the spot nose complex. Do you know anything about it? I do not.
Yeah.
MJ, do you know anything about this?
No. And this guy says some wild stuff sometimes, so I would just kind of like take that with a grain of salt. So
grain of salt, take it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but like I said, I'm usually the last to any kind of news because I'm like, again, I'm checking emails all day and then I go home and I turn the computer off. So I'm not the best if you want the latest scoop.
Just for anyone out there, Summer, who has anything. Like first and foremost, what are you looking forward to the most, you would say, this year? I mean, I know we're about halfway through the year. Okay. You see a lot of the stuff happening over at Kinova. Is there anything project-wise you're most excited about? Anything you could spill the beans about that you're like, oh my God, I just can't wait for this? And well, you give us anything.
What I was excited for was to put some codoms in complete dominance into the Desert Ghost Axanthic Clown. However, we've kind of finished. I think we maybe have one more clutch in the incubator. And so far we have not, again, it's just an example of like, it's not always sunshine and roses. We have not hit that animal. It's just been either bad odds or a bad clutch or one thing after the other. It just hasn't panned out. So I was really excited for that. I don't know if it'll happen. I have to check their clutch records. We might have one more clutch currently incubating for it, but we might be done. I'm not sure. But other than that, for me, I think a lot of the exciting stuff has already happened. Again, I don't ever really know what they're planning until it's in the incubator and until it's like about like a week from hatching. Because that's when I go in and I look at the bottom of the incubator. Like on our Fridays, I look and I see, okay, what's hatching now? Because honestly, I'm just too short to see the other shelves in the incubator. So it's like everything. I always tell Justin everything at Kinova, like he hangs a sign up and it's like above my head because he's so tall. I'm like, everything here is for tall people, and I'm not even short, but he's just very tall.
He is.
So yeah, I mean, I was really excited for a lot of the puzzle stuff that we already hatched, but I think yeah, I don't know. I'll have to let you guys know on one of those Fridays when something cool comes out of the incubator, because that's usually when I find out about it.
All right. To be continued.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to hit you with this just one hot seat question. I'll let you go, okay?
Go for it.
If you had to pick one or the other, all
Mm.
right, meaning your most favorite out of the two, is it monsoon or sunset?
Ooh, monsoon or sunset? Monsoon. Easy.
Woo!
Very
You
easy.
said that so quick and smooth. I'm sorry. That was great. I loved it. And I know a lot of people who watched tonight love tonight's episode. We just had under 100 people tapped in tonight, Summer. So what do you have to say to everyone out there showing all the love and support on tonight's episode in the live chats and just everyone out there who's just rooting for you guys? What do you have to say?
I would say thank you. I mean, I appreciate everybody who has watched today, tuned in, even for just a minute or two. Obviously appreciate anybody who's a fan of Kinova, anybody who's a fan of MJ. Thanks for coming along on the journey. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun doing what we do. We have a lot of fun watching you guys do what you do and see all your success as well. So definitely just enjoying the ride and want to say that we appreciate you and we appreciate everybody who's involved in this hobby and industry for keeping it going and keeping it interesting.
Well, listen, I know how busy you guys are, especially you, Summer. So you hanging out with us for a couple hours tonight really means a lot. I appreciate you so much. And I'm going to look into a Costco hoodie for sure. Because my wife, I would definitely want to do that, match that hoodie.
Yeah, we'll have to, then we can have a double date and we can just all.
Yeah, that'd be great. But guys, please go support Kinova Clutch. Girls with Scales is your IG, right?
Yes, it's probably severely, again, I barely post on it, but I will read your messages if you message me.
All right. Summer, enjoy the rest of your night. And guys, give it up. It's a wrap for Summer's round 2, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night, Summer.
Bye, guys. Thanks, MJ. Y'all have a good one.
Later. Oh, she's awesome, man. Shout out to everyone who tapped in tonight, showed some love to Summer and Kinova. And yeah, this was a great episode. Don't forget, if you're looking for exclusive content, first link in description below. Join the Trap Talk Patreon family. Get connected with over 200 awesome reptile keepers. We have a Discord. There's an awesome Instagram group chat. Just all about the animals, man. We're all about each other, too, man. We're all here growing, having a good time. So I hope you guys had a good time on tonight's episode. Hit that subscribe button first and foremost, please. Help me get the subscribers up. Get the likes up, too. The likes should be a lot higher, I feel like. So let's get the likes up for Summer. All right. Shout out to Kinova. Shout out to you. Tomorrow, Colubri Corruption going down here. And then Saturday, Tom Crutchfield's coming to All Monitor Talk. But guys, have a good night. I'll see you guys here tomorrow for Colubri Corruption. Or no, I'm sorry. For Thank God It's Colubri Fridays with Colubri Corruption hosts JD and Alvaro from Clover Reptiles. All right. Have a good night. And I'm out. Cheers.